Do you think Donald Trump was a threat to democracy?
I think that given the events of January 6th, given how he has undermined the election results, he incited people to come to D.C., stirred them up that morning, and failed to call them off. To me, that threatens our democracy.
So yes.
I think the answer would, what else can you conclude, Brett?
What else can you conclude but that Donald Trump threatens our democracy? And that was Donald Trump's former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper. Donald Trump put him in the job. Esper was talking to Fox News about his new book called A Sacred Oath, in which he delivers not only the general assessment about Donald Trump, but also some specifics about Trump foreign policy and military policy. Esper describes that in the summer of 2020, after George Floyd was killed by a police officer in Minneapolis, and there were protests all across the United States, and Esper describes going to the White House, having a meeting with Donald Trump in the Oval Office, where they could literally hear the protesters, the Black Lives Matter protesters, outside the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. And Donald Trump turned to Esper and others and said, "Can't we just shoot them in the legs?" As if, like, Donald Trump didn't want to try to kill them, but he wanted to shoot them to disperse the crowd. Esper and the other aides said it was surreal. They were able to explain to Donald Trump, no, you can't, we can't do that. Of course, it didn't stop Donald Trump from having the park police clear out some of the demonstrators in Lafayette Park so that Donald Trump could then go to the church across the street and have a photo op. But in any case, Esper goes to great length to explain that despite everything that was going on, he said he tried to influence Donald Trump from the inside. That the reason Esper decided not to resign is because he thought it might be more effective in protecting things like democracy and protecting people's rights and protecting the United States if Esper and others were on the inside of the administration working to diffuse some of Donald Trump's worst impulses. Watch.
I thought my duty was to the country, and it is and remains, and I thought it was better staying in the job and trying to shape policy to prevent bad things and advance good things for the nation rather than just resigning.
Mark Esper joins a long list now of former Trump administration officials who have openly criticized him on the record. This is based on their experiences working for Donald Trump and serving in his administration. John Bolton, former Trump National Security Advisor, describes Trump as erratic and unfit for office. Rex Tillerson, former Secretary of State, said that Trump was undisciplined and doesn't like to read. Anthony Scaramucci, former Director of Communications for Donald Trump, says that Trump was crazy and off the rails. Omarosa Newman, another Director of Communications in the Trump White House, said Trump was unhinged and that he created an atmosphere that was madness. James Mattis, former Secretary of Defense for Donald Trump, the first one who served for Donald Trump, said that Trump's actions were angry and appalling. Bill Barr, Attorney General during the Trump administration, described Trump as unhinged and a maniac. Tim Bossert, who was a national security advisor for Donald Trump, said that Trump's discussions with foreign leaders were, quote, deeply disturbing. And then there's Cliff Sims, who served as a special assistant in the Trump White House. He said that Donald Trump created an enemies list that consisted of Donald Trump's own people that he suddenly decided he didn't like. All of these people describing Donald Trump were put in their jobs by Donald Trump. We don't need to take the word of anybody in the media or anybody who's a pundit on the outside. Just look to the experiences expressed by the people who Donald Trump know the best and who knew Donald Trump the best. They say Donald Trump was unfit for office and that he remains a threat to our democracy. Finally, regarding Mark Esper, Donald Trump has responded in a fashion that underscores Donald Trump is very sensitive about the criticism from Esper. He says that Mark Esper was weak and totally ineffective, and because of it, I had to run the military, said Donald Trump. Trump also said Mark Esper was a stiff who was desperate not to lose his job. He would do anything I wanted. It's a little bit confusing as to how somebody could be both ineffective and do whatever Trump wanted at the same time, but logic, of course, doesn't follow Donald Trump. Oh, by the way, Esper also says that Donald Trump was the biggest leaker in the Trump administration and would often undermine his own people by putting out information about his cabinet secretaries and his own advisors that was unflattering or made them look stupid. Remarkable. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us. Tell me what you think in the comment section.